Hello my love friend. Welcome to Blow Up, where we dive into the juiciest, most unhinged stories from Reddit. Today we've got 6 wild tales of wedding dress disasters, shady neighbors and party food fails that'll leave you speechless. Are these Redditors in the right or did they cross the line? Grab a snack, smash that like button and let's dive into the drama. I, 28F, recently got engaged and was excited to pick out my wedding dress. Something I've always looked forward to doing myself. My mom, 56F, took it upon herself to buy a wedding dress for me. She never asked me to go shopping together or send me ideas. She literally went out, bought a dress she liked and then put it in my closet without saying anything. I just found it one day while getting something else. No conversation, no heads up, just a dress hanging there. It's nothing like what I would have chosen for myself. It's super traditional, big, poofy, very princess bride, and just not me. She never asked what I liked, what styles I was thinking about, or if I even wanted help. I feel hurt that she didn't involve me at all. Now she's upset I haven't tried it on and says I'm being ungrateful. Family is saying I should just try it on to make her happy, but it feels like she made a big decision about my wedding without me. She let my 2 older sisters have their wedding dress moments and she didn't even bother to ask me what I wanted. AITA for refusing to try it on? Post update. I see a lot of comments about me changing my lock, but I wanted to clarify that I found this wedding dress in my childhood closet in my parents' house. They kept all our rooms the same, so sometimes I store clothes that don't fit me in there. That is when I found the wedding dress my mom intended for me. For everyone asking about the cost, I actually don't know how much the dress cost. I didn't ask and honestly I didn't want to know. The dress isn't my style at all, and I'd probably be horrified to find out how much was spent on something I had no say in and don't even like. Based on how my mom usually shops, I wouldn't be surprised if it was over $500 to $1,000, but again, this whole situation isn't really about the price tag. It's about not being included in such a personal decision and feeling like my preferences didn't matter. There are comments that, Mom's sneaking a poofy princess dress into the closet like it's a surprise party? This ain't say yes to the dress, it's say no to the stress. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have tried on the dress to keep the peace, or stood your ground like she did? Have you ever had a family member make a big decision for you like this? Share below. From wedding dress woes to apartment power plays. So I am 30s, live in a mid-sized apartment building with a pretty standard setup. There's a building council that oversees maintenance, budget, admin stuff, etc. Everything went relatively smooth until 2 elderly neighbors, let's call them Mike and Maud, both in their 60s to 70s, decided to make the building their personal chessboard. Mike and Maud got themselves voted onto the council this year, but not exactly by the book. They took over the annual assembly as president and secretary of the session, despite not being neutral parties, changed the voting rules mid-meeting, and ignored every objection that didn't suit them. The official minutes that came out later? Full of omissions and lies, including a claim that the vote for the council, which they now sat on, was unanimous. Spoiler, it wasn't. I was the only one actually voted in through real consensus. Since then, they've overstepped their role over and over, publishing official documents before they were even registered with local authorities, acting on behalf of the building without authorization, and most recently trying to get me to sign off on a contract, as a council, without even involving the building's administrator. That's illegal where we live. Earlier this year, Mike made a completely false claim that the community could be subject to asset seizures due to a pending labor lawsuit. Again, not how the law works. I'm fairly certain that was meant to scare everyone into letting them settle things without review or transparency. I tried to handle things quietly. I've been patient. I've offered peaceful ways out. But now, I've filed a lawsuit to challenge the legitimacy of the assembly minutes and their actions. I'm also preparing a full public report to the community detailing everything, and yeah, it names names. I've been told I'm being petty or cruel, that they're elderly and maybe they didn't mean harm. But at some point, not meaning harm still leads to serious consequences. They've lied, manipulated, and acted like they were above oversight. The community deserves the full truth. AITA for going full transparency mode and dragging them publicly and legally, after trying to keep things civil for months? 2 elderly neighbors hijacked the building council through sketchy means, lied in the official records, overstepped their legal authority multiple times and spread misinformation. After months of trying to handle it quietly, I filed a lawsuit and went public with the receipts. Now some say I'm being mean to old folks. There are comments that, Mike and Maud turning the apartment council into their personal dictatorship? Naming and shaming with a lawsuit? That's a checkmate they didn't see coming. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have gone public and sued like he did, or kept trying to resolve it quietly? Have you ever dealt with shady neighbors like this? Share below. From shady council schemes to birthday party betrayals. I, 35F, have a son, Killian, 14M, who just recently had a birthday. The issue stems from his birthday from last year, where we invited all his cousins and his friends to celebrate him. The party went great for the first half, but when it came time to cut the cake I went over to fridge to go get it and saw it was half eaten. I was obviously upset about this because this had been a cake that I had made by a professional baker that cost me around $140 and my son really loved the design. I asked who ate the cake and my sister, 44F, laughed it off when her son, Robbie, 16M, told her that he ate the cake because he was hungry. To be clear, the cake wasn't the only food at the party. Throughout the party we served many different dishes such as wings, veggie platters, pizzas, chips, and sodas. I was obviously angry that my son couldn't have his cake and had to quickly go out and buy one from Walmart. I'm honestly still shocked that with all the food at the party Robbie still managed to clear half of a huge cake. It was enough to produce about 20 slices. I called my sister later to tell her I wasn't happy with what her son had done, and since I had spent so much money on the cake I expected it back. She then accused me of being fat-phobic, which absolutely is not true. I have never once discriminated against Robbie at any time. This was just a false accusation. To explain, Robbie has a weight problem and has been having issues with binging since he was around 13, which is why he is about 250 pounds, and my sister has never failed to let anyone know of that and expects for everyone to bend over backwards for Robbie since he has it hard. This year Killian wanted to have a friends-only party with the exception of 2 cousins, one that only his friends and closest cousins could come to since he hated his party from last year. I asked why and he explained to me that he was embarrassed of Robbie since all he did was poke fun at his friends and him, bring his own uninvited +1, and obviously he ate some of the cake. I complied and only invited his friends and allowed 2 of his cousins to join as well. Luckily some of my siblings were understanding. The only one who had an issue with this was my sister. She called me to ask why Robbie wasn't invited and I explained to her that Killian doesn't want him there because of what he did last year. My sister was infuriated and said she knew we had an issue with her son's weight. Since then she has been ranting all over Facebook and I've been getting calls from relatives and this entire situation has been stressing me out. There are comments that, Robbie ate half the birthday cake and brought an uninvited +1? Banning him from the party isn't fat-phobic, it's cake protection 101. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have banned Robbie from the party like she did, or invited him to keep the peace? Have you ever had a family member ruin a party like this? Share below. From cake chaos to a workplace cringe fest. So today my office building was throwing a little fiesta-themed event and they offered free lunch in the cafeteria. A bunch of us went down to grab food. While I was standing in line, I opened the Nest camera app to check on something and saw a little bird that's been showing up outside every day. I laughed and casually said to no one in particular, "This bird comes to visit me every day." Right after I said that, a coworker, who has made pregnancy comments toward me before, came up, rubbed my belly without asking and said something like, "Maybe it's because you've got a baby bird on the way." I felt this immediate wave of rage, like why are we still doing this in 2025? So I said, "Don't be wishing that kind of bad luck on me." She looked super taken aback and my boss, who overheard, also looked at me like I just said something offensive. It felt like I was the crazy one for being upset. But I didn't ask to be touched, I'm not pregnant, and I really don't like people making those kinds of comments about my body. Now I'm wondering, for reacting the way I did? I am not overweight, which only makes it weirder cause I do not look pregnant. There's a couple of rays of sunshine trying to make me feel bad about my weight. Maybe I need to be more specific. My coworker did not do this out of my looks. That's why I'm concerned cause even though yes I'm not the fittest person, I know I don't look pregnant. There are comments that, rubbing her belly and dropping baby hints? In 2025? This coworker needs a time machine back to basic manners. That clapback was chef's kiss. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have snapped like she did or brushed it off? Have you ever had someone make inappropriate comments about your body? Share below. From office boundary violations to kitchen theft. So as 2 teen boys, they're going through puberty and rapidly growing, I get it. My problem is one of them consistently, about once a week, eats all of something that was bought for everyone to share. Sometimes it's all in one sitting, sometimes he takes it to his room and munches over 1 to 2 days until it's gone before anyone notices. In the past I've never complained because he's a teen, try to be understanding, and not my kid. But a few days ago I get groceries including Costco-sized bags of tortilla chips and chocolate chips. Next day I'm looking to eat some chips and salsa, chips gone. I know what happened. Annoyed but don't. A few hours later I go down to bake with the chocolate chips and they're gone too, an entire 48-ounce bag disappeared, emptied. So is out to dinner, so I wait until it's supposed to be over, then text him simply saying all the chips and chocolate chips I bought yesterday got eaten, buy more on the way home. Which he does. But then gets home fuming for making him do it. I tell him I think his anger is misplaced because I shouldn't have even had to ask, that stuff shouldn't be gone already. He's like, what do you expect me to do about it? I tell him I just expect him to be responsible for his kids' actions. Then he said he will tell the teens not to touch anything I buy ever again. I replied, you know that's not what I'm saying, you can allow whatever behavior you want, but if it's inconsiderateness you should be still responsible for making right when it affects other people. He still thinks I'm being ridiculous, that it's no big deal. They were already older when we got married, their mom is actively involved, and I agreed that I should stay out of parenting and punishment. I'll also add that if I see this kind of stuff happening I do say something politely, just being the adult, like hey, how about take a bowl of chips to your room instead of the whole bag, you can always get more but somebody else might want some? Or like hey, before you eat that last slice of pizza maybe you should see if your brother wants it since we got it for y'all to share. I just don't lecture or reprimand after the fact because it seems to cross into more punishment territory. Besides that, so allows it, and it seems to mostly just happen behind my back at this point. Also I could not go to the store myself because we have a baby who was asleep for the night. There are comments that, this teen inhaled a 48-ounce bag of chocolate chips in a day? Making dad restock is fair, call it the Costco tax for bad parenting. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have made the so replace the food like she did, or handled it differently? Have you ever dealt with someone eating all the shared snacks? Share below. From kitchen bandits to party food flops. Right, so I've got this friend I'll call Steve who is a great friend but not a great host in some aspects. He throws parties which are fun and enjoyable save for one problem that arises literally every time. There is never enough food. For example, he had a game night and there were 10 people other than him and his wife there. He ordered 2 large pizzas and 1 small specialty pizza. This was from Domino's if you're curious about the size. For sides there was an order of garlic knots or something like that. So the party was fun, but after a couple hours I was hungry again / still and overheard another couple talking about getting food on their way home. The next time there was a get-together I offered to have me and my wife bring a dish, but he insisted he had food covered. We show up and again, there's only enough for everyone to have 1 serving of the pasta he made. It really wasn't enough. I don't think it's a matter of cheapness because the problem is only for food not for drinks. He happily shares his extensive liquor cabinet and always buys plenty of beer and wine. He also always happily brings dishes for potlucks at other houses. For the next get-together at his house I pitched the idea of a potluck. Some other friends also signed on to the idea. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Then New Year's Eve he hosted and we ran out of snacks before midnight and a couple of people ended up dipping to go to another party. He seemed annoyed but I don't think he made the connection. So finally last weekend he was hosting again and rather than ask, I decided I would just bring a dish and some snacks. He was visibly annoyed but didn't say anything about it. He was just short and avoided me for most of the evening. The next day he texted me saying it was rude to bring food to someone else's house like that. I apologized and said I was just trying to be helpful and reminded him about how food had run out at previous get-togethers and I was just trying to help avoid that. He got mad and accused me of saying he's a bad host. I told him I didn't think that was true at all, just that his food estimation abilities needed some work and that leftovers aren't a bad thing. He didn't respond and hasn't responded to any of my messages since. There are comments that, Steve's out here serving 2 pizzas for 12 people and getting mad when someone brings snacks? Bro, your parties need a buffet, not a grudge. Some viewers asked questions. Would you have brought food like he did or respected the host's wishes? Have you ever been to a party with barely any food? Share below. From wedding dress ambushes to snackless parties and cake-eating cousins, these Reddit stories were a roller coaster. Who was the most justified, or the most unhinged? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you've got your own Reddit drama, share it below. I'm hooked. Hit that like button, subscribe to Blow Up, and ring the bell for more Reddit chaos. Thanks for watching, see you next time.